Week 0 is officially over, and man, it did not disappoint. It didn't disappoint even slightly, and really excited to talk about it. Of course, we are back here today, as promised, live at well, a little after 10, but it's all good. My bad, I forgot to make a thumbnail beforehand. Can't do it all right. Sorry. No,
No.
but we're here with another recap. A lot to talk about here today. BJ, I know you had some stuff going on yesterday yourself. How was the Ranger game you took in?
Well, considering that seemed like the first time in maybe 2 months that the Rangers were putting up football type numbers on the scoreboard, it was a pretty good return to football in a sense. But I this was the on Friday they unveiled a new statue that's going to be forever in front of one of the entrances over at Globe Life Field, and so it was cool to get to go over and see that. I've got some pictures on my phone that uh, I can send to you later, obviously, but it was really cool. Really, really neat day at the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have. You also did watch quite a bit of yesterday, though. It wasn't all about
Yeah,
baseball, casual.
right.
No, but in all seriousness, it took in quite a few games, and I mean, we're not going to start off with the game that everybody wants to start off with. We're going to come back to that here in a little bit. But what I will say is, we had we had quite a bit of a game out there in Vegas yesterday. 38-31, UNLV ends up taking
Yeah,
the win, and I think the
boy, oh
biggest
boy.
storyline is the UNLV defense is in trouble. They had
Yes.
some serious problems over there over the course of that game yesterday. Idaho State might be legit. I'm not going to sit here and say that they're not because Idaho State's been kind of they've been competing. They just haven't been the best team in the conference, but they've been a good team and solid for the last few years. But it really felt like it took maybe a bit of a I don't know. It took a lot for UNLV to figure it out. I think part of it comes down to the quarterback situation. They would not pick and stick to a quarterback who played well for them. And I'm not just
Yeah.
talking about Anthony Calandria. I'm also not talking about Alex Orji. I think that either side, it seemed like one player finally started to find a rhythm, figure out what they needed to do for this offense, and then just like that, they were pulled, and it was given to the other guy. Calandria led an incredible drive, two incredible drives in a row. One putting a touchdown on the board, the other one putting a field goal up, and next thing we know, Orji's back in the game. And
Yeah.
granted, he did end up putting together the rushing touchdown that ultimately won them the game on 4th and 1. But I even still, I felt like it was just a mismanagement of a roster, a mismanagement of players and what you had in front of you.
Well, it is a welcome back to Dan Mullen in a sense, isn't it? What is it? Isn't the old adage, Tyler, that if you have two quarterbacks, you really don't have a quarterback? I think that's fully on display here with UNLV. If I'm UNLV, and again, I mean, obviously, I'm not the one that's in charge of making the decisions or anything like that out in Vegas, because I mean that's probably just a wise investment for everybody. Um, I think Calandria's got to be the guy going forward. I think there's uses for Alex Orji in this offense and in an A offense, but I just don't believe that he is the guy that's going to bring UNLV the success that they have kind of expected here over the last couple of years, being around that upper echelon of the Mountain West in the you know in a sense last year where they were competitive enough that if they'd been able to take down Boise, they might have had a shot, an outside shot at that of being in the college football playoff. That what we saw yesterday is not a team that's anywhere close to that level, and it's part of it is because there was that you know so many bumps in the road early on trying to get the offense established, and like you said, I mean the defense, that's an understatement in terms of they have problems. They've got major things that they need to figure out between now and their next time out. But I mean, ultimately, you survive a scare. Usually, there's one or two every year that somebody as a big favorite ends up choking it away early on in the season. Should be alarm bells going off, but there should not be full on panic, sell about these rebels yet.
No, I think it would be foolish to do that. We've done that before with teams and turned around and been completely wrong.
Right.
Um, they, they do have things to work on. They have things to fix, but I agree as I stated in our group chats yesterday. Like if I'm Dan Mullen, I'm sticking with Anthony Calandria, and that's as
Yeah.
somebody who wants to see Alex Orji succeed. It's just
Well, yeah, I do
I
too.
don't think he's the quarterback of any team. I don't think he's the guy who
No.
can sit there and lead this team to the potential that I think they're supposed to have or they feel like they should be. This is a team that's I think is gonna struggle the more they waffle on this and
Yeah.
try to make it one way or the other.
Yeah.
Orji's a great player and he's gonna be a good player to come in and bring in and utilize in a run game. Teams are going to expect him to run the ball, and then that's when you hit them with maybe a pass or something
The
like
pop
that, and
pass. Yeah.
and maybe do something a little different. But I just don't know that his skill set as a quarterback and as a passer is enough to lead this offense game in, game out, and even from drive to drive. I don't know that they can do that. I mean, we saw it yesterday, and what I saw more was Anthony Calandria being consistent. He was able to run the ball pretty effectively, and granted, he's not the same skill set in the run game, but he runs the ball pretty well. He's pretty effective with it, but also was able to effectively pass the football too and lead them again down the field. Where I feel like Orgy and Jaden Thomas are good players to kind of run like a read option style offense. I don't think you can get away with that all year. You
No.
have players that you can utilize in the pass game. You have a team that's a lot more talented than that. So I think that certainly a decision needs to be made. But it was an eye opener, I think, out there because UNLV's a team I picked to go to be second in the Mountain West, and certainly I had some questions about it, but I didn't. I felt like I knew the most about them, and now I walk out of here with a lot more questions about them
Yeah.
than I had about a team that I had finished in fifth or sixth in the conference. So,
Right.
um, hard to say.
To to go back to wanting to see Alex Orji succeed, I know you obviously do because he was a part of the squad last year over at Michigan. But it goes back even further for me. He was he was a part of the high schools here close to me. Went to my high school. He went and then he transferred. They moved to a nearby high school. For his last couple of years, and that's where he went from being a receiver here and being able to kind of utilize all of his athleticism and be a part of a really good offense where they moved. He wanted to be the guy. I never thought that he was going to be a a solid QB. He's so athletic. He's got such gifted skills. Both of his brothers were Vanderbilt players, and I believe his next oldest, not his oldest brother, but his next oldest brother is still in the NFL. Um, so that the talent's there. That's a very talented family, but for me, I always thought that the QB was the wrong spot for him. I think he can be utilized effectively at times in that position as a like a decoy, but he's got to be able to, you know, be more than just the like you said the read option guy, the you know every now and again throwing a pop pass, and I just have not seen that improvement. I've not seen that development in his passing game for me to feel comfortable with him being, considered more than a, certain gadget formation quarterback or anything like that. And it's a shame, but I really, to me, if the decision still has not been solidified after what we saw yesterday that Calandria should be their starter, it's going to be quite a rough, bumpy September, just say the least. I mean, you went through this whole thing. It felt like at times last year with Michigan, Tyler.
Well, yeah, I mean, but that's the thing is he's not a quarterback.
Hmm.
He doesn't have the skill set it takes to be a quarterback, and
Yeah.
I'm saying this is somebody who knows the position, who's played the position, who understands. Like, sure, I didn't play it in college, but just because I didn't play in college doesn't mean I don't know what needs to be done. And
Right.
I mean, it's a position I've studied for a really long time. And one thing I will say is that he just doesn't have that that capability. I don't think as a passer. He's a
Yeah.
really good runner, and he can certainly lead an offense. I mean, he'd be great in a triple option offense, but the thing is, he's
Hmm.
not, and they don't, and nobody runs that anymore.
Yeah.
And I think Dan Mullen would be foolish to try that. That's not the way I think it needs to be. It's a little bit
This
different,
isn't.
but I don't want to beat a dead horse. I
This
don't
isn't.
want to spend a bunch
Yeah.
of time on
Right. Right.
the same topic.
Right. Right. This isn't the running rebels, Tyler. They used to be, but maybe not anymore.
Yeah. Moving on, we'll stay, or no, yeah, we'll stay with Mountain West, I guess. Meaning that Kansas opened up their new stadium,
Hmm.
the David Booth Memorial Stadium,
Yeah.
post renovations, and it's beautiful. Hosts over
Yeah.
40,000, and it was sold out, even though I saw some empty seats. So somebody bought some tickets and didn't go. Uh, but hey, it was a sold out crowd. Sold out. I'm using air quotes, BJ. I know you can't see me, but I'm using air quotes on
Right.
that. A sold out crowd. They got to see some pretty good football. I thought that the Kansas defense impressed me a lot more than I thought it would,
Yeah.
and it really stems from that linebacker room. We talked about it a lot. Bengali Kamara, what he was going to be able to do coming over from South Carolina, how he would be able to really lead this defense. As somebody who has some significant playing time in the SEC. And I saw him, on a lot of plays. I thought he did a really good job. The secondary looked good. They were playing the ball pretty well. Not too many stupid penalties. There were a handful, but there weren't too many dumb penalties. And they just played a clean game. They took care of Fresno State. EJ Warner had one really good drive, and I was really impressed with him throughout the course of the game. But two big interceptions, I think, really hinder kind of what was an otherwise decent performance from him. Um,
Hmm.
and the biggest thing is that's something that's been with him his whole career. When he was at Temple, when he was at Rice, I mean, last year he had 17 touchdowns with 13 picks. This year he's got 0 touchdowns and 2 interceptions to start it off. And it's not. I'm not saying that to make a joke, but
Right.
it's it's certainly a little concerning early on. But I didn't think Fresno State looked bad. They just looked like they just weren't as good as Kansas,
And
which
that's perfectly fine.
exactly. Year one for Matt Entz is all about kind of learning. Year one for any coach is about learning what you've got, trying to build upon it, trying to put your team together.
Yeah.
And I really think that they have some potential to do some damage in the Mountain West. They might not be playoff caliber. They may not even
Hmm.
be Mountain West Conference title participant caliber. But I think
Yeah.
they have some talent there. I think they have some potential to really work through the conference schedule pretty well. Sure, they took a tough loss, but you know what? They held Kansas to 31 points, and Kansas didn't pull their starters um, until middle of the fourth, and um, they did what they needed to do. Once they settled down in that second half, they really put themselves together, and I thought that was
Yeah.
sure. Kansas was trying to run the game out too, but it they played a good second half of football. They can do that
Yeah.
the whole time. I think they can really they can push for to be an 8 or 9 win team.
Yeah, I
We'll
was gonna
see.
say this is a bowl team, simply that, nothing more really.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, the I think the best that you could hope for if you're a Fresno fan is to be, kind of pushing to in the last couple weeks to try to get to the Mountain West title game. But I don't really think that this was a team that is a true series contender. They're not a team that could, challenge or threaten, a team like Kansas or a P4 team this year. Give them some time, give them, the right trajectory, continue to build up the program, and this is a game that will be, a lot closer in the next couple of years. But this is just about basically what was kind of expected. The only thing that was really a question was how long would the, offenses continue to go up and down the field, and certainly that seemed to be, pretty much kaput in the early in
Yeah,
the second half.
unfortunately, not long enough.
Yeah,
I needed a little bit more, but
I know. One more touchdown, right?
well, I gotta see. I got maybe I read the
Or was
no.
it
I
two?
needed I needed 2.
Okay.
I was
Couldn't
sitting at
remember.
38, and I needed over 49.5. So, oh
Gotcha.
well,
Gotcha.
you know,
Well, hey,
bastards.
you
I
got
went, I went, I
you
went
went
1-1 yesterday, so we're all
right,
right.
and you
Um,
got you got a few season ones that we'll be monitoring for the rest of the year.
yeah,
So that's
yeah, we're all
all
right on the
good.
picks. We're all right. I'm not too
Yeah,
worried. I'm pretty confident that we're gonna. I'm pretty confident, even with that we can still go 7-3 on the week 0 between the over
I think
unders and
so.
everything else.
Yeah,
So.
I think so too.
Look, Jalen Daniels, though, I'd be remiss to not talk about him. He looked really good.
Yeah,
I mean, looked. It's Fresno State. I'm not going to say he looked like he
right.
could contend for a Player of the Year spot, but he looked like he was back, and that's a really good
Yeah,
sign for Kansas. If their defense can if this is truly a mark on Kansas's defense, and this is not about what Fresno State couldn't do or didn't do, um, then you know it is what it is. But I thought a little bit more about what Kansas could do, and I was pretty impressed. So
yeah, absolutely. We've got for Kansas there. That was a really good defensive effort. We're not really going to learn a whole lot from their second game week 1 and on the Friday night against Wagner, but early season test at Mizzou coming up in week 3. So
if their
definitely
defense is what we
something
think it
to
is, Kansas is going to win that game, and they're going to win
yeah.
comfortably.
Mm-hmm.
Because,
Based on
I
what
mean, look, just what we know about Kansas or Missouri right now, we don't even know who the
right.
quarterback's truly going to be in that game,
Yeah.
and
Well,
they're
careful. There might be some fans that don't necessarily agree with your assessment that might be watching. We wouldn't want to upset them, would we?
I already had my fun the other day. I already took my victory lap. Um, look, man, it's not anything against either of them, but I just had this feeling that was going to be a quarterback battle, and it turns out it
Yeah.
is. Drew in the
Good.
chat, I just want to welcome you in, man, as we're getting ready to transition to another game.
Hey, welcome, Drew.
Um, he was shit talking you yesterday. He was not a fan of what you had to say, but
Wow.
Drew comes in and says he lost money. I assume he's talking about Jalen Daniels as he plays like he's going to
Yeah.
get injured. I worry about him. Well, I mean that's probably because he has been injured. I would say. I mean
Yes.
this is a guy that's fought injuries, differing injuries over the last 2-3 years now,
Yeah.
and
And that's
at
kind
least
of
the
been
last
what's
2 seasons. But I think we're closer to 3 now, and
yes.
um,
And that's what's held Kansas back. We've talked about
yeah.
how much potential they've got, how they really, with Devin Neal and those guys, if they could have stayed healthy, the defense played like we saw yesterday. This is a team that, like I said yesterday, I thought they could be a genuine dark horse that not a whole lot of people are talking about. Not necessarily saying that I'm going to, put more chips on the table with that just because of Fresno State. But again, I mean, Tyler, like you said, what we are going to see here in the non-conference could be, instrumental in how they approach things, at the start of conference play, because they're going to, start off with West Virginia team at home, then they're going to get Cincinnati, and then it really picks up with back-to-back road games against Central Florida and Texas Tech before they get the Sunflower Showdown. So we're going to know, by mid-October at the latest if this Kansas team is for real. And sure enough, what to expect in terms of
Okay,
a
I
wild
see. I
upside
see
down
what
Big
he's.
12
I
race.
see what he's saying. So he followed it up with. He puts himself into vulnerable positions playing hero ball.
Okay.
I mean, sure, at times, yeah, I think so. But I mean, look,
Right. Look what
every
Jaden Daniels
quarterback
did in
who,
that preseason game the other night. And, I mean, there's just quarterbacks that have that instinct that they want to, put it all out there. They want to go and put the team on their back, want to go and, give that extra surge, give that extra, you know, effort to make sure that they could find the end zone. I mean, that's what you want in your quarterback. Obviously, you don't necessarily want him to, always be out, but at the same time, just that kind of energy is what is really good for a locker room and bringing guys together, in my opinion, at least.
yeah, I mean, guys, teams and players want to play for guys like that. I mean, that's just how
Hmm.
it is. And I think they're going to be okay, at least for the time being. But um, we'll see. Again, he's dealt with
Right.
injuries for a while now, so we'll figure that out. But let's push forward here. Western Kentucky hosted Sam Houston earlier, later in the night yesterday on CBS
Yeah, it
Sports
was
Network.
about
Um,
6, 7 Eastern, I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
And what I will say is that Phil Longo, not a terrible debut. It wasn't a terrible debut. Eventually, Maverick MacGyver figured it out, and he threw for 401 yards, 3 touchdowns, had a had an impressive debut as a starter, like as a full time starter, and
Yeah.
man, I'm impressed. He's going to be a lot of fun to watch this year in the Conference USA. Western Kentucky looks the part again. I mean, given the
Yeah.
fact that that's a conference game to open up the season, they look the part within the conference. Anyways, they're going to
Right.
be a lot of fun to watch. I'm kind of excited. I'm excited for those weekday games later in the year when we get to see a little bit more of this team, kind of see what they look like later down the line.
Yeah, I mean the way that he was throwing the ball around, it's almost like you go back to a couple years ago, the days of Bailey Zappi, when he ended up, slinging the ball around and breaking some of Joe Burrow's records. Um, it's at least from what we saw yesterday. Now, not everybody is going to be Sam Houston, and that's not a slight against Sam Houston, because I remember what they did just a couple years ago. In having just a shutdown dominant defense on their way to the FCS national championship. But this is a team that is still trying to build itself up. I think this is still only year 2, year 3 at most here in the FBS, and so what we've seen from them is not on the same lines as somebody like Western Kentucky, who's been there doing this for a long time, and certainly looking the part of being among the best of the best in the Conference USA.
Yeah. Not going to spend a whole lot of time there. We'll move on to the. Let's go FCS. Let's talk about these other 2 games last year.
Okay.
So FCS, I'm going to start with probably the most not surprising. Tarleton
Hmm.
dominates Portland State, 42-0. They were led by Trey Page, running back, 15 carries, 170 yards,
Yeah.
2 touchdowns, and that's impressive because their original starter, Tylen Hines, went down with an injury and was out for the rest of the game. Um, I mean, that's a big blow to this offense. At least that's what you would have thought. But then Trey Page comes in and
Right.
has multiple huge runs, and really just kind of carries the team throughout the course of this game. Dominant effort, big time win. The Texans looked the part of a top 10 team here early in the season. They come in ranked 8th in the FCS top 25. So that's certainly a team that I think is still pretty damn good. Now, here's one thing I will say: Portland State, to my knowledge, is not a very good team.
No.
I'm not gonna sit here and act like I watch Portland State any more than this game this year,
No.
but to what I know, Portland State's not really that good of a team. We'll see what things look like, but in terms of conference play, Southland, they might be the favorites this year, given the fact what we saw elsewhere in the conference.
Well,
We'll get there.
I thought Tarleton was in the UAC, aren't they?
Oh, are they?
They're not in the Southland.
I thought they
Yeah,
were
they're in
Southland.
the.
Ha! Oops.
No, they used to be, or I think they were an
Whatever.
independent. But yeah, they're UAC. So we'll see them on Friday. They go up to Army. They get to take on the cadets up there in their first, FBS FCS game, and then a couple other opponents here: Mississippi Valley, Central Arkansas, Chattanooga. I mean, this is a very workable, manageable schedule. This is a team that you know might not necessarily face too many challenges, and so we'll see what
And the
they
UAC
can do.
is the WAC and Atlantic Sun, correct? That was the
Yeah,
merge that was.
yeah, yeah. That's what it was, and then they consolidated basically.
All right. All right. Moving down the line here. Man, this game went the way I expected it to, but at the same time, it didn't. NC Central 31, Southern 14. That's a dominant effort from NC Central. They're a good team, though. They typically play pretty well. I think they're probably the favorites out of the MEAC to go to the Celebration Bowl later this year.
Yeah.
But Chris Mosley, running back for NC Central, 15 carries for 174 yards and a touchdown. So, outdid Trey Page in the rushing yards category. Trey Page outdoes him in the touchdowns category. It was a fun game to watch, though. I think NC Central really proved themselves, and I know that they kind of just declined invitations to the FCS playoffs. But
hmm
if they're as good as they looked yesterday, should they take that invite?
I mean, it would have to be that they have somebody that is not prioritizing, or maybe not prioritizing isn't the right word, but I think there has to be a shift in focus, or something along those lines, in terms of, um, you know, the Celebration Bowl is viewed as the big prize more so than a national
Well, because
championship
it's
would be. And
the Celebration Bowl is the HBCU title game basically.
yeah,
It's a
right,
championship amongst those programs, which
right.
is it's fine. I mean, I'm not saying there's a problem with prioritizing that game,
No,
but if the opportunity presented itself as a team that could probably go in and do some damage, at least the way they looked, why not take that opportunity? Is what I don't, and maybe I'm just missing the
right.
point. Maybe I'm missing the point. As somebody who does not watch or is not as keen on FCS football, um, I'm not gonna lie about it. I mean, look, I watch week 0 and I watch where I can, but I don't sit here and watch every single FCS game. So for me, it's a little bit more difficult maybe to understand kind of the premise and why. But um, either way, it was just a thought thrown out there out of my mind.
Right. No, I certainly don't disagree with you. I don't know that it's going to ever happen.
Well,
And I mean, here's the thing: it's this is the only sport that it is something that we're even having the conversation. If you talk about these schools, and in a basketball sense, they're always a part of the NCAA tournament.
yeah,
That they I don't think a whole lot of them field baseball teams, but some of the other sports that they have. Um, they're competing in the actual NCAA tournament. This is the only sport that this is unique to, and in a sense, that is awesome that it is unique to football, and that
yeah.
is the priority. But at the same time, like you said, if there is a chance that this team is good enough that they could go on a run, they could beat all these other schools and not just hoist a black national championship, if you will, in an HBCU game, but
What the
also
fuck?
an actual NCAA national championship. I don't feel like that would be right to deprive those athletes from that opportunity. It's one of those things that they would have to, I think, be willing to either move up the Celebration Bowl to before the start of the FCS playoffs, so that you could do the Celebration Bowl and then still potentially go and compete in the FCS playoffs, or they'd have to move it back until after the FCS playoffs. And I don't think that's a option that they would want to do if you're going to, keep it, obviously, and not get rid of it, which I don't think they should do.
No, no, they
Um,
shouldn't. All right. UC Davis and Mercer. It was 23-17. As far as I'm aware, about 7.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. They went into a weather delay.
yeah.
Game ends up being declared a no contest, and I misspoke yesterday morning. This game was played in Montgomery,
Okay.
not in Georgia over at Mercer. This was the FCS kickoff game that they do every year.
In
So,
Mobile, right? Or no, Montgomery, you said that. Duh.
God damn. Yeah.
My ear is a little congested. That was why.
But yeah. Um, game declared a no contest. I don't really know why this game was close to the end. I'm not particularly sure why they just called it a no contest. It's not particularly like. Sure, it was a one-score game, but UC Davis was in control of this game for the majority of it. I felt pretty comfortable in being able to say that UC Davis would have won. I'm
Right.
sure there's some politics involved. If I were to guess, there's probably some politics involved into why that
Yeah.
wordage is used versus the other. Probably helps Mercer out a little bit. But
Yeah. Ultimately, I think
yeah,
Mercer didn't want it to count because that might
because
hurt
it
their
was a
playoff
one score
chances,
game, and
something like that.
yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah, it certainly would because look, everybody in the SoCon is certainly eyes on Johnson City and what ETSU looks like right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just plain and simple. And so, yeah, I think there's certainly a little bit of concern about taking that L early in the year. It might hinder Mercer's opportunities. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what they end up doing. But it was interesting to me that we saw that. So I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on a game that doesn't count.
Right. I
Uh,
believe this is the first time that we've seen a game that started get canceled since bowl season in 2017 or 2018, the Heart of Dallas or
yeah,
First
there's
Responder
there's
Bowl.
something certainly interesting about this whole thing. I mean, they could have
Yeah.
played it this morning. They could have played it today. I don't know why
Right.
this was what they
They could have
chose to
finished it up.
do. I don't know if it was a UC Davis travel thing. I don't know if it was a Mercer saying, "Yeah, we were getting our ass kicked. We're done," kind of thing. But look, I mean, I don't know, and I'm not
Right.
trying to talk too much shit, but it
I
is
know.
a like
It's
it's
disappointing.
it's interesting because this was a really good game. This was a top 15 matchup in the FCS. I knew it was two former playoff teams or two playoff teams from last year, but this is a top 15 matchup. I believe Mercer came in at number 11, UC Davis at 7, or maybe the other way around. But this was
I
a
think you're right.
this was a good matchup, a good early season game that we just don't get to see the end of because of some sort of, again, I'm assuming politics playing a factor and playing a part.
Yeah, and I mean, ultimately, it's not a conference game. They probably didn't want to be, stuck there waiting around and even if it was only like 7.5 minutes or something like that to finish up, it was, one of those things that as the later and later it got, the more and more it was, there maybe like you said, UC Davis had to get back and that is certainly a something that you have to be you know keeping in mind is student athlete. The student part is before the athlete part, and it's a long flight back to the west coast from Alabama that they're probably either having to do overnight to give themselves time to get back acclimated, or um, it was something that maybe um, they flew out early in this morning, and so there was really no chance that they could resume the game because you just got to get back because first day of class is tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah.
So
We got a poll in the chat. Should this game have continued? Vote as you wish up there. Moving on. The game of the day on the FCS side, what the story of the day.
right.
Nichols at home at Thibodeau takes down number 4 Incarnate Word, and that's impressive. First off, look, this is a team that 2 years ago won the Southland in Nichols.
Yeah.
They were the team of the Southland a couple years ago. Last year, Incarnate
Mm-hmm.
Word won the Southland. Nichols is entering a new era. They brought in a new head coach, and forgive me for not remembering the name, but bringing in a new head coach, bringing in a new era in a school, and they took it to UIW. I mean, look, Incarnate Word just could not figure out the offense. They had two backwards passes that went for negative 21 and negative 28 yards respectively. It was just a comedy of errors from the UIW offense. They couldn't block. I mean, their pass block was terrible yesterday. They just could not get it going. And when they did, it felt like something happened, some mistake happened and went wrong. They had an interception in the red zone late in the game when they could have made it. I believe it would have been either tied the game or made it 20-13. But either way, it would have brought it back and been pretty close. Um, so unfortunate to have seen that happen the way it did.
Yeah, and the name you were looking for was Tommy Rybacki. He's the new guy over at Nichols. Listen, I mean, just from keeping up with, I mean, you can see the shirt I'm wearing, East Texas A&M. This is a Southland school. This is now year 4 of us in Southland, which feels hard to believe. Fully, transitioned into the FCS from the D2 era.
And you guys are taking
And
every check you can get and playing
yes.
games.
Yes, we
But
are. We're going to definitely, be willing to take some handouts. No,
as you should.
so here's the thing. UIW was the best team in the conference in 2022 and in 2024, with Nichols coming out of nowhere almost to steal the bid in 2023. So these are the teams that have pretty much been among the best of the best here at the start of East Texas A&M's time in the conference. And for you were talking about some of the other impressive running back stat lines from yesterday in the FCS with Tarleton's running back and and the running back from NC Central. Well, listen to this. At one point, it felt like both of those guys had more yards than both these teams combined. It was rough sledding for both offenses. The defenses really came out to play. You had the leading rusher that was 50 yards basically, and this was a game that was played over in Louisiana. This was
So it was
just
over
a
in Thibodeau.
dominant effort from the Colonels to get the job done. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the two teams' total yardage were both less than 300 each. So you had 287 for Nichols, 225 for UIW, 188 through the air, which is just not something that we're used to seeing from the Cardinals. This is a team that loves to throw the ball around and loves to get the offense going through the air, and they just could not get anything right. Torres, 3 picks. Just a really brutal
3 picks and 2
game
backwards passes for
offensively.
20 plus
Yeah.
yards, man. I mean, that's
Uh-huh.
I don't mean to laugh, but I mean seriously, dude, that's
It's
awful.
not. Yeah,
So,
it's not good.
but yeah, it's impressive. They were talking about Nichols having maybe one of the best defenses in the Southland. I don't know that I personally agree. Now again, hear me out when I say that I don't follow the FCS to a level where I
Right.
can confidently speak. But what I will say is that the mistakes and the really the poor play from UIW makes me feel
Yeah.
like it might be more on the side of the Cardinals than it would be on the Colonels. But they still played a really good game. I don't know who the favorite would be right now as we sit. I probably would be Nichols for what they just did, but again, it's week 0. We don't have the answers yet.
It's either Nichols or Sela are the best chances now. I mean, UIW's obviously still in the race. This loss will hurt, but they can still bounce back from it. They
FCS
just
doesn't
don't
play
have a
conference
tiebreaker.
championships, right?
No, they do not.
Okay,
No.
that's what I thought.
Yeah. So they'll. I mean, if anything, it comes down to like head to head, because they genuinely do make an effort, because the conferences are not big enough that you can't play everybody. So that's why there's not a whole lot of non-conference games. You get your maybe 1 or 2 buyout games if you're an FCS team, and then you play pretty much the rest of the slate is conference games, and then the automatic qualifiers all go into the pool to play in the postseason.
Okay.
So
all right. Let's
and
go back.
Texas A&M's not going to be a team that will be around the top of the conference. But never forget 2022 when they beat Sela, and entering October, they were squarely in the conversation. In fact, I think it was mid October that they were still among the best of the best before they had to play UIW and Nichols. So
yeah. Going ahead, since we're done with the FCS, went and ended this poll. 2 votes, which is good. I mean, we have everybody who's watching participated currently. We had 100%, both of you say yes, that this game should have continued. So, love to hear that. As for the FBS side, let's finish this up real quick. Hawaii, 23-20, big time win over Stanford, and this game was questionable for a little bit. Early on, Stanford gets out to a 10-0 lead, and Mike Alejado starts to lead this team down the field. Really impressive drive at the end of the first half to take a 14-13 lead. What they would then go on to do was Alejado got hurt in the third quarter.
Yeah.
He got rolled up on his leg on a tackle. Ended up going out for one play. Came back in the game, but you could tell he was hobbling, limping on that right leg a little bit. Still led this team down the field for 3 field goal drives, ultimately the game-winning drive at the end. And I mean, you just love the guts that it took out of him, but also, you know, look, super impressed with him and what he was able to do and lead this team. But can't say Matsuzawa, the kicker for Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
This kid taught himself how to kick online on YouTube.
Yeah.
And what he did was take videos of him kicking, send it to colleges. He started out at Hocking College, which is actually pretty local to me at well, my original home of Ohio. And started there, transferred to Hawaii in 2023. This is his first opportunity as the place kicker. And he took full advantage. With again 3 for 3 from field goal range, 2 for 2 on his extra points, and what better story than to get the game winner off and through as time expired to win that game.
Well, so listen to this, Tyler. End of the third quarter, into the beginning of the fourth, Stanford marches down on what has to be described as a Frank Reich-esque drive. This was a NFL caliber drive where they just pounded the rock. They ran 20 plays, went down the field 85 yards. They took nearly 10 minutes off of the clock in between the third and the fourth quarters, ultimately getting a Micah Ford touchdown run to put themselves up 20-17. They get a punt. If Hawaii goes 3 and out, they are driving again. Tyler Gulbranson got a big play to Chico Holt on a 3rd and 2 where Hawaii sold out thinking that Stanford was going to run it again.
Mendiola, though, what an incredible interception on that drive to end it. I mean, that was probably one of the plays of the game, if not the play of the game.
That turned all momentum in my book, because after that, I mean, you're right outside the red zone. If you're Stanford, you get a field goal and eat away more, of time. That they had, about 6 minutes to go in the game. If they eat up a couple more minutes, and even if they just kick another field goal, you got to get Hawaii down the field for a touchdown. As it was, Hawaii went down. They got into field goal range and tied it up under at the 2-minute timeout, and then Stanford has to punt.
They go 3 and out, and I mean, they didn't even waste any time. They went 3 and out, and the ball went right back to Hawaii.
Anything like that.
Yeah. It was impressive, and it's, again, all the more impressive for Alejado to lead 2 drives like that late in the game. I mean, that was some really good stuff, and I mean, this is correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, I think this is kind of a signature win for Timmy Chang.
Absolutely is. And here's the thing. I mean, we will say this is, and it is, in terms of, beating a P4 opponent in Stanford. But we talked about it yesterday, Tyler. The Stanford team is going to have a long road to climb back up to where they once were. This is a team that's not got a whole lot that they can look at as positive. I really wasn't really impressed with their receiving unit. I think that this is a team that really needs to find another option. I've never really been a Ben Gulbranson fan. I have not really been impressed with him, even at his best days at Oregon State. And it's just one of those things that there's a long list of things that need to be improved upon before Stanford is remotely competitive again, even just competing for a bowl game.
Well, but that's what I said. I mean, look, this is a team that they have Frank Reich for a year, and then they're turning it over again, assuming that Frank Reich doesn't ultimately get the job. But the thing for me is this program is in trouble because of what Andrew Luck did, and you can call it what you want, but let's be honest about it. he pulled the rug out from under a lot of these players,
Yeah.
and it's a really really tough situation. He comes in and just completely takes Troy Taylor out of the head coaching job, moves on like it wasn't anything, and it was really frustrating for me to watch because I thought Troy Taylor was finally starting to put his team together, was finally
Yeah.
starting to get his chance to show that yeah, this team can compete, and now they got to reset again, all because Andrew Luck is like, no, we got to be a physical team, we got to do this, this, and this.
Yeah.
It's just not good business in my mind. I don't like what they did. I'm not a fan of it. I'll be very adamant on that till the very end.
Hmm.
It just feels like this program did it to themselves, and
Yeah.
that's tough. It genuinely is very tough
In the
to sit back
last
and
couple of
watch.
years, they've lost to Sacramento State, an FCS program. Now they've lost to Hawaii, who is probably, and I don't mean this to be, I don't mean this to be an insult, but it's just one of those things that because of how far Hawaii is, it's really tough for them to compete in the mainland and recruit and everything like that. Hawaii has kind of taken the role of how Idaho used to be, where they were the closest thing to an FCS program in the FBS, and so
Disagree
this.
wholeheartedly.
What's that?
I disagree with that. I don't think so.
Okay.
Hawaii is
Either way, it's one of those things that Stanford is just not accustomed to. It's been a long time since they've been on the struggle bus. I mean, you got to go back to the early days of Jim Harbaugh. The last time we saw them in as bad of a shape as they are now is really ultimately what I
yeah.
was getting at.
Yeah, I mean you have to go back to probably '07, '08, and
Yeah,
even then they pulled off that huge upset over USC over
USC.
there. So
Hmm.
it's
Yeah,
just it's tough to watch. Again, I'm really frustrated with the way it went down, but it is what it is. Drew in the comments says that Hawaii was the favorite before the game started. If anything, Stanford outperformed expectations.
I think that's
Sure,
fair.
sure,
I
but
think
I
that's
don't think
fair.
a lot of people bought into the Hawaii favorite storyline. I don't think people did. And
Yeah,
while I think both of us picked Hawaii to win this game,
yeah.
a lot of people outside of this, a lot of more maybe that's more casual fans. I don't know. I'm not talking bad about anybody, but a lot of people that I saw stated and voiced their thoughts that Stanford was going to be the better team and that Hawaii was just getting I guess sort of an unnecessary boost in the odds. And I
This
mean
this
I
is why
just
Vegas wins money. I mean,
yeah
there's always a lot of people that think they know more, and certainly there are some cases where Vegas gets it wrong, but this is not one of those cases. I mean, it just to me, I really wasn't necessarily impressed with either team. The most impressive thing that was at least before the game started. I was very impressed with what we saw out of Hawaii and Alhado, putting it all on the line. Again, another guy that you want to play for if you're
yeah
his teammate because of what he was willing to do, putting his body on the line, playing through that injury and leading them down the field to get in position to win that game. It's gutsy and you love to see it, but I'm not necessarily saying that I was sold by either of these teams. I just thought that Stanford was in a lot worse position than Hawaii was. I
yeah
expected it to be a close game. That's pretty much what I expected. Hawaii wins a close game at home. Walk off boot.
yeah. Okay, well I accidentally did something, but it'll do because we were gonna change this up here over here and talk about the game that we saw yesterday, and I pull it up here on the screen for those of you watching. You're going to lose BJ for a minute, but you should still hear him. You do
That's
still
all
hear
right.
him. So, the game yesterday was everything we could ask for over there in Dublin. Iowa State
Or,
gets the
I
what?
mean, we could have sent them something else, honestly, based on what we saw. But
No, I mean I think this was a good game. I mean
yeah, it was a good game.
this game was
It
college
was
football.
sloppy. Yeah, it
This
was sloppy.
game,
It wasn't perfect, but it was fun, and I think that's a perfect embodiment of what college football is.
yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Like this game was college football, and we can talk about a handful of things here in this game. You look at the stat lines. It was certainly a certainly a game that required some guts. I think is the way I would put it. This was
That's fair.
this game. You start this game and there's a pretty steady downpour rain. I'm not gonna say it was heavy or anything, but it was raining pretty consistently enough so that it took the paint off the field at the stadium, which was its own problem. But in that process, in the first half, we saw 4 fumbles on both sides. All 4 of them were lost, and um, what we also saw was Iowa State really, I think, control this game for a good portion of it. I think that they, what I had talked about prior to the game was Iowa State, if they can figure out their running game and run the ball along with being able to throw the ball a little bit, they're going to be okay. And they weren't great throwing the football, but they had big plays when it mattered most. Obviously, Avery Johnson had a little bit of a better day passing. Kansas State certainly stuck to the passing game a little bit more. Iowa State played the long game, really. They waited and tried to run the ball late. They had Carson Hansen sit for like the second and third quarter. We really only saw him get maybe 1 or 2 touches. And then we get to the fourth quarter, and Hansen's in, and it's a steady dose of Carson Hansen the whole way down the field, and they go on and extend to what would be a 24-14 lead. And a lot of us sit back and say,
game.
a lot of us sat back, and I remember Cam's coming in, and he's like, "Yeah, that feels like game." It wasn't quite game,
Right.
because Kansas State would go on and have an incredible drive, scoring a touchdown almost immediately, making it 24-21. Iowa State, though, back to Carson Hansen.
Immediate, wasn't it? It was like a 1-play, 65-yard or something like that.
1 or 2 plays, but yeah, it was a very quick strike, and Iowa State gets the ball back, and we're like, okay, interesting. I'm sweating the over or the under at this point, and Iowa State just runs the ball down the field. A steady dose of Carson Hansen. Late in the game, but just before the 2-minute warning, 4th and 3, Iowa State goes for it, gets a pass off to Carson Hansen, who trips just before the end zone. Goes down to the 1, saving me on the under, and sealing the win for Iowa State because they were then able to kneel the ball out and in this game.
Yep.
Really, just this was a gutsy performance, but Iowa State found some stuff with their receiving room. They are going to be big fans, I think, of Brett Eskildson, who had 3 catches, 46 yards, would end up having the contested touchdown grab. They had a couple touchdown passes, but he had the contested grab in the end zone.
The first one, right?
Yes. No, the second one. He had the second one.
Oh, okay.
A stat line in this game, I put it at the bottom there. You probably already read this if you're watching, but this team was 3 of 3 on 4th downs, Iowa State, versus Kansas State's 1 for 4. If we were going to talk about stats, especially in a sloppy game that were going to make a difference, this one stood out to me. Iowa State's ability to stay on the field when they got to 4th down, and they didn't go for it a lot. Matt Campbell played it pretty conservative. There were a couple other opportunities I thought they had to go for it. They stayed patient, and when they did go for it, it was when it mattered most, including that final play that ultimately ended the game. But that 3 of 3 number on 4th downs, I think big compared to the 1 for 4 for K-State. The other thing, if you'd have told me this was going to happen, I'd have been like, okay, that might be a problem. Dylan Edwards got hurt in this game. Was injured on the muffed punt return at the very beginning of the game. And that was tough. But I think it opened up a little bit for Kansas State here. And here's why I say that. Joe Jackson got 12 carries for 51 yards. He seemed to be the running back that they want between the tackles. Dylan Edwards is going to be the guy that they're using to spread the field out. They're going to get him the ball in passing situations, stuff like that. But I think Joe Jackson is the guy that they're going to utilize in that DJ Giddens role, trying to get up the middle. Which is what... It was an answer they needed, because they certainly did not... I didn't know what they were going to do, and they struggled with it. They did not know really how to call this offense early in that game, and eventually it started to come together. Of course, the passing game started to open up a little bit because it stopped raining. Um,
Hmm.
but one thing I'm a little more surprised with was Avery Johnson and the lack of use that he got in the run game. We
Yeah.
saw him a little bit, but a lot more times than not, we really saw him and them trying to get him going in the passing game, and I just don't know that I felt like that was the move to
No.
make. Now, it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that Avery Johnson's a bad quarterback, but I think that there are some mechanic flaws that he has, especially when he has time to think about the throw. When it's not his first read, when he has to try to make something happen, it becomes a little more forced than it is when it's his first read and he can just get the ball out and do what he's got to do. He had good moments, especially as the game kind of winded down. We got more to crunch time. Again, that drive, that long touchdown pass being one of them, but um, I just felt like we would see a little more from him on the ground and be a little more impressed with what he could do on the ground, and we just didn't.
Yeah. I mean, this is from the Iowa State perspective. This was a Matt Campbell masterclass. That was the big question. What you said earlier about they found it seems like they found their receivers that they, you know, were worried about the production they lost from last year, especially with Eskis. And it's one of those things that Rocco Becht is a really solid quarterback, and I don't think that a whole lot of people give him enough credit in terms of Big 12 circles. He's, I think, one of the most underrated guys that we've seen some really great quarterbacks that Iowa State has produced under Campbell. Of course, Brock Purdy being the biggest name, but Rocco Becht is just exactly what this offense needs, where he's not afraid to sling it around when he needs to, but he'll also take off and get those yards if it the moment calls upon it. And like you said, it was a selective, aggressive, nature. Not going for it a couple times where you said, they certainly felt like it should have been, but when they needed to, they had a couple things drawn up and worked to perfection. And the big reason why it felt like there wasn't a whole lot for Hansen in the middle half of the game, if you will. Kansas State's rush defense was just superb, especially early on, and so it was one of
But
those
it's
things
not
that
that Hansen wasn't even on the field.
right.
It was Abu Sama that they were putting out there, and Abu
That's
Sama
right.
had some
That's right.
success
Sorry.
himself. But Carson Hansen, they completely took him out of the game after the first quarter almost. Maybe, like I said, maybe one or two touches, but they didn't bring him
Yeah.
back until the fourth. And in the fourth
Right.
is when it really mattered the most.
Yeah.
I mean, they wore them down in that fourth quarter and ultimately
Yeah.
started running the ball. They had over 100 yards rushing in the second half, where they barely mustered up 23, I think it was, in
Yeah.
the first half. It
That
was just
sounds
a
right.
tale of two halves, and a lot of it was the fact that they just continued to lean on this K-State defense.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's the thing that you're gonna look at, and that's what Iowa State has kind of become synonymous with here over the last few years, and certainly what has led them to success with with Campbell in charge. So I mean, it's one of those things that for Kansas State, it's. I said yesterday I thought that they would likely lose this game, but I still think that they can be, a contender for playoff. It's just one of those things, like you said. I still need to see Avery Johnson, just having that natural instinct, that feel, instead of having to put, you know, too much thought into it. It's one of those things that it's just not seeming natural at this point. If he can get that, that sense about him and just be quick and efficient, everything like that, and making the knowing where players are going to be, and then if it's not there, if you have first read's not there, second read's not there, you've got to take off. I mean, that's part of the what like you said that was missing was that he was not running the ball a whole lot yesterday, and that's such a big factor in this Kansas State offense is his legs that we just didn't see enough of. And I mean, maybe it was one of those things that you don't want to get him hurt this early in the year, especially on a wet, soppy field in Dublin. But this is what really, can, unlock the whole potential of the offense. And you almost want to keep it behind lock and key at this point. So it's one of those things that I think that this is not something that is going to, linger from week to week for Avery Johnson. I mean, he's got some, interesting tests coming up with, UND and Army here in the next couple of weeks before they get back into conference play. But certainly one of those things that you'd like to see a little bit more of a confident passer before we get back into, conference play with Arizona in the third week of the season.
That's non-conference. Remember, they had that
Oh,
scheduled
that's
prior.
right.
That's still a
That's
non-conference
right.
game. So
That's right. That's why I was looking. I was like, wait, I'm not seeing a third non-conference game, and so that would
that
explain
that
why.
is that is their third non-conference game.
It is a conference opponent, but not a conference game.
Yep.
So,
Yep. So that's what we got going on there. But so your winning lines for this game, if you're curious, Iowa State plus 2.5. Iowa State money line, of course, was a winner, and the under 50.5. Thank you to replay for existing.
the one thing, right?
So in the chat here, we got a couple things. Poll for Timmy Chang. Is this a signature win? 100% said no. It's not the signature win for Timmy Chang in this era of Hawaii football.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
I'd say so. Now, as for this game, real quick, Drew in the chat once again. Got a couple more things from him. He says, people did not like the game at all. I personally thought it was a pretty good game considering it was the first Dublin game with in the rain.
Yeah.
Then following up about Matt Campbell, had some great plays drawn up for those fourth down conversions. 100%. They were again they were selective about when they went for it and when they were aggressive and when they played field position. And I thought they did a great job. I really this game was the epitome of how Iowa State's won a lot of their games over this era. So just really impressed with this team. I think they're gonna be dangerous. I had them as a 10-2 team this year, anyways. So hoping that'll roll and had them with a win here. So that's a big deal there. As for people not liking the game, it's really personal opinion. I think a lot of people look at Big 12 and want to think about offenses and high scoring games. But when you have these two teams, it's always defense, it's always low scoring. And when you put rain or some sort of element into this game, it turns this thing on its head. It makes this thing ugly, gross football. And, I mean, we saw from the very beginning. We saw a muffed punt, and then we saw a toss play on the 1 yard line that was fumbled later on that was recovered by Austin Romaine. That was one of the fumbles early in the game.
That was still just an asinine call, but it is what it is.
It was a terrible call, but it helped me out. It helped me out. The under still hit. So,
right. Here's the thing. I mean, if you think of Big 12 and you think of 35, 34s or even, both teams over in the 40s or 50s, I mean, you get some of those, but I just don't feel like that's the Big 12.
It feels like when you get those now, it's the teams that just aren't good.
Yeah.
Genuinely. It feels like it's the teams that aren't good, or like Texas Tech last year had plenty of those games, but that's because they gave up 34 points a game. Like, that's just the way it goes.
I mean, Texas Tech was leading TCU big in Fort Worth last year, and they gave up 35 or something like that and unanswered, and we came back and won.
Yeah.
TCU had one similar to that with UCF where they were up pretty big, and then UCF came back to win.
I think Colorado and UCF had a game like that too.
Colorado and Baylor, I think, were both in the
40s, that was what it was. That's what it was. Yeah, that one.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the Big 12 has those games, but it's not in the way that it used to be, and it's not
right.
It's turned itself back to defense, and we got some good teams there. So, it just is what it is. And but it was a good game. I was happy with it. I thought. I mean, look, I'm a guy who I said earlier I'm a quarterback guy, but I love when defenses come out there and we just see like an old school battle, and that's kind of what this felt like. I mean, this was just a good football game. I will say I wasn't far off on that score prediction either. I said 21-17 Iowa State. We got 24-21 Iowa State. So
There you go.
we weren't far off on that pick.
No, no, you were
I
not.
don't
And I
tend to
mean,
do
we
score predictions anymore, after I got it
right.
right that one time, but um
You were tired after that, as I remember.
well, I gotta keep people happy. Um
Right, right.
but anyways, let's go ahead and push on here. We got a player of the week to award, which we will do every single week here on this channel. But the player of the week this week, I'm going to start with the honorable mention because this could have gone either way, but the honorable mention deserves his credit as well. That's Hawaii quarterback Micah Alejado.
Yeah.
Now, BJ, I'll give you the chance to give us a player of the week unless you agree with mine. But Micah Alejado was 27 of 39, 210 yards, 2 touchdowns. Again, leading the team the way he did following the injury to his leg was impressive. I was really, really just impressed with what he was able to do, and how he was able to keep himself going, lead 3 field goal drives, and ultimately be able to take the win for Hawaii. Now,
Yeah.
as for my player of the week, we're staying in Hawaii. We're staying down there on the island. We're going with kicker Kansei Matsuzawa. Again, 3 for 3 from field goal range, including a game-winning field goal, and his story is just so incredible that it has to be. Has to be. I mean, that's a storybook type of thing. I mean, they're going to write a movie about this kid one day, simply because of this moment, and it's awesome because, again, for those who missed it earlier when we were talking about it, and those who have missed the story, I'm sure you haven't. I'm sure everybody's talking about it, but this kid comes from Japan, comes out to the West Coast, watches an NFL game, and says, "I'm going to be a kicker," and goes on YouTube and starts learning how to kick. Sends clips of him kicking to various colleges and ends up at Hocking College in Ohio for a year or two. Transfers over to Hawaii in 2023, lands here, and now we see him again winning a game over a Power 4 opponent with a field goal as time expires to clinch victory over Stanford. Just the story of the day to me. There's not much else I could say with that.
Right, I love the pick, but to me, it was Alejado was my player of the week. I mean, getting hurt, they were talking about potentially like season-ending injury, and it may still end up being something that sidelines him for some time. But the grit and the determination to get back out there, they taped him up. He was clearly not 100%, but being in a position to he wasn't just, I mean, he was hobbling, he was throwing off of one foot at times. This was a a cat that was out there and just trying to do everything that he physically could to help his team get down the field and get the victory. And so Alejado for me was the player of the week because of the the grit and the tenacity to basically be willing to put it all on the line, leading his team down the field. And he's, I mean, even with being hobbled and being on one leg, he still looked really good. He was finding passes and able to take off and run at times as well. I'm certainly not upset with either of these guys being player of the week because both of those guys were instrumental in Hawaii's victory.
And we have a poll up for you to vote on our player of the week. We'll give you guys a few minutes, and feel free in the chat if you're watching. Let us know what you guys are thinking after week 1. We'll go ahead and talk a little bit, open it up for some questions, some answers. Talk about what we can here over the next couple of days while I do that, or while that's up there. Make sure you vote, though, if you're tuned in. Just it's very quick. It's free, by the way. You just go click. It's also free to subscribe. It's always going to be free, but it's free to subscribe, and that just helps us out. We're trying to hit 200 subscribers, and we're on the road to it. We're 16 away. We are at 184 right now. Let's get the rest of the way there. If you're new watching here, a lot of you are. 90% of people who watch these are over 90% are not subscribed. So it's very simple. It's free. Again, you just get to see this and check us out weekly. And we're here every weekend at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, we go live. We'll be talking everything from on Saturday, where we will be previewing as much as we can of the Saturday ahead. We're here on Sundays doing this exact recap, just like we did today. And Monday through Friday, you get videos at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. It's just me talking about news and other happenings around the sport. It's a really good deal for free, I think, to get a lot of knowledge and a lot of information about college football. So make sure y'all stick around.
You got a lot of games that you can preview this week. You want to give anybody a kind of a sneak peek at which what days to expect? Talking about which games for the week 1 slate.
So I don't have a specific schedule.
Okay.
But there are going to be some game of the week conversations. Obviously, Ohio State Texas is going to get its own show, and it's going to have a preview behind it. As will the Clemson LSU game. I'm sure I'll get something done for Miami and Notre Dame as usual. And then beyond that, there's a couple we could talk about, probably Alabama, Florida State, but I think those three are the main ones we're going to talk about, and then we'll kind of play it from there. But who knows? Drew, should week 0 have more big games that go all day?
No. The week 0, this is perfect for a little appetizer of what week 1 is going to give us. I'm perfectly fine with, having a couple of these games that are not necessarily teams that you would watch otherwise, because you're starving, you need to scratch that itch for something college football related. I mean, I am not necessarily a fan of like a rivalry type game in Dublin, but I'm perfectly fine with a game in Dublin to start the year, because we're all, hungry for college football. I'm perfectly fine with, sending we next year is going to be TCU North Carolina. I'm not necessarily thrilled that TCU doesn't get to be the, play that game in front of their home fans at Amon G. Carter, but it's cool that that's going to be a Dublin game. Pitt and Wisconsin is the year after that.
Michigan and Western Michigan are playing next year in Germany on week 0.
That's
so,
right. Yeah.
So for me, if I may, it's to me, Drew, I kind of get what you're saying. It didn't do enough. It wasn't quite enough, and I get that. For me personally, I would like to see maybe an extra Power 5 game, like an extra Power 5 matchup. I don't want rivalry games in week 0, but I don't mind seeing. What we got was 3 games with Power 4 teams. We got obviously the big game in Ireland. We had Kansas, and then we also got Stanford. I wouldn't mind seeing maybe a little bit higher profile team play in week 0. Maybe seeing like Michigan next year is going to join North Carolina and TCU. I think that's a perfect couple of games to give us next year in week 0.
Well,
but beyond that, I don't know.
I think the Michigan game is going to be Fox next year, if I had to guess.
Yes.
And then the ESPN will be the TCU North Carolina game.
Yes. There was a hole in the afternoon. It depends on what you were watching. I was tuned in Nichols and UIW, so I didn't feel quite a big gap. But what I did miss out on,
the Idaho State game was nuts.
But it was tough to find. It was tough to find.
It
took me
a valid criticism.
Like, if we're gonna have a week 0 game, it better be on TV where I can watch it. Like, I don't need to go to Prime to find. I shouldn't be told halfway through the game that it's on Prime.
How to find it? Yeah.
And I shouldn't be told halfway through the game, or I figured out that it was on the Mountain West Conference Network. That was a frustration point for me, but that game also started at 4:30. If we would have had a mid-afternoon game, at 3:30, 2:30, whatever time frame you want, it would have been okay. Tarleton and that game didn't do anything for me other than the fact that Tarleton whooped ass. That was about it. I can agree to a point. We need the 12, 3:30, and then 7:30, and then that. Yeah, so what I found was it was streamed on the Prime through the Mountain West Network, or through it was like RYZ Network or something like that. Riz, maybe, I don't know. But um, yeah, that's what I found, and that's where I was able to find it and watch at least a little bit of it prior to the Kansas and Fresno State game coming on.
Hmm.
And then I paired it up with the NASCAR race last night, which was awesome. So like that's how I did it. But obviously, if you're just a college football fan, then certainly
Yeah.
you would not be full with it.
Right. And I mean, if you got other sports, there's, you could pair it up with baseball. Tyler, I know you said that you got a little bit of some WNBA action by inadvertently.
So
So
I
I mean,
looked
if
up.
that's
I was in the midst of trying to find the UNLV and Idaho State game, and I was told CBS
mhm.
Sports Network was hosting this game. I go to CBS Sports Network and find an 8-26 team versus a 9-25 team or something like that. Um,
Oh, that's not the matchup of the week that you wanted to watch.
can't say it was.
Oh, okay. Was Caitlin Clark in it?
No,
Oh, well then.
we're
Oh well.
not digging into this, but no, it was not that. That I can tell you with almost certainty. So,
I think
um,
that is true that there was kind of more of a structure where Hawaii was the late game where it was like 8 or 9 o'clock when it did start. But
well,
I think
remember Vandy
because
also didn't Vandy beat Hawaii a couple years ago?
yes, and that was CBS as well, if I'm not
Or Hawaii
mistaken.
beat
So
Vandy. I mean, the other way around. But
I think
I think they
there's
split because they did a home and home in week 0, and I think they split it.
yes, yeah. Vandy won in Hawaii, and then Hawaii won at Vandy, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, no.
I think so. That's what I think I remember.
Week 0 last year. Yeah, I think it was. I think it was a little more reasonable in terms of the scheduling. It wasn't so packed with the late games, but
Yeah.
um. So yeah, who voted other in the chat? I want to know who voted other, and
And
who would you take? Who would your
right.
player of the week be?
That's
That's what I want to know as
yeah,
we're
yeah.
getting ready to
If you
finish this
say
out.
other, it
I'll
should
ask you
be
guys a
something
question
you
while we
you
sit here.
write down in the comments.
I want to know. I want to know what it was. Um, and we're gonna have uninterrupted football until midnight next week. I'm excited.
Hmm. Past midnight too, right? I mean, let's see. I mean, just
Well,
looking at
yes, yes.
just looking at Thursday, it starts at 5:30 with the Boise and South Florida game,
Yeah.
and those games go. You can get a 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock start actually with San Diego State and Stony Brook. So Thursday, you're going to get football from 5:30 to midnight,
We're gonna get some good
even
football too.
later.
I'm really excited for that Boise and South Florida game. That's
Yeah.
gonna be a lot of
Nebraska
fun.
and Cincinnati at Arrowhead is going to be a phenomenal game.
I don't know
You're
about
looking at
phenomenal, but it's gonna be a good game.
well, it's gonna be something. It's gonna be fun,
Yeah.
I think. Friday 6 o'clock with the Army and Tarleton game, and then that goes all the way until a 10:30 start with San Jose and Central Michigan. So another day of football past midnight, and then noon past midnight on Saturday with all the games. The last one being an 11 o'clock kick in Seattle with Washington and Colorado State. So plus UCLA and Utah as well. But
So,
I mean,
so
it's
Drew
gonna be
says
fun.
he's thinking either Rocco Becht or Jalen Daniels, and I'm not mad about that. I think
Okay,
either one of those are
no,
fine.
that's perfectly
The
fine.
reason I
Yeah,
didn't go with Rocco, I just thought I didn't think he was as effective in the passing game, and honestly,
yeah,
I thought that he had some moments of struggle within the early parts of the game, just being able to sense when the time was kind of running out, when he needed to get out of the pocket, kind of make a play with his legs. He took too many unnecessary sacks, I think, early in that game.
yeah.
Um, Jalen Daniels, I loved it. I was really happy about what he was doing. For me, it just ultimately ended up being the fact that I thought that what Hawaii did was still impressive. Again, I mean, look, I think it was you,
Hmm.
Drew, who said it yesterday when you took your money line bet for Hawaii. They were plus 650. So people were hammering the Stanford money line,
Hmm.
and and even still, like Hawaii just was not expected to win, no matter what Vegas said. Hawaii wasn't expected to win, and
And they
that's
did
why for
despite
me,
it.
I'm fairly impressed. We got a 50-50 split. between Matsuzawa and the other category.
No, well, I see how it is then. Thanks, peeps.
Well, it's not my problem.
No, I
Um,
know. I'm
if you're in
only
here,
messing.
if you're in here, help us break this tie. Give us a vote here. Just go into the chat. It's right there on your screen. All you gotta do is click one or the other of any of them, and you can be a part of the vote here for our Player of the Week in week 0 of 2025. Going into this week, though, we got a lot to talk about. We have plenty of games to preview. We have plenty of storylines to address, and I'm just truthfully looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We got a lot of good things to cover, and again, we'll be back next Saturday and Sunday live here as we did today, talking about everything we just witnessed yesterday. Everything we're going to witness if we're talking about Saturday, and we'll even recap Thursday, Friday. The Thursday games I'll talk about on the Friday show before we do best bets. We'll have a lot of fun with it. So appreciate you guys that have tuned in. I appreciate everybody who's here again. If you haven't already, subscribe. Over 90% are not subscribed that tune in this channel. I mean, I get it. You know, everybody likes free stuff. I mean, this is free. But as a
freeloader,
as a guy that I idol would say, yes, nobody likes a freeloader. So make sure you subscribe. It is in fact free, and it will always be free. But we're just here to have a good time and enjoy it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed what we put out here for you today. Tomorrow, again, we'll be back talking a little bit more about week 0, a little bit more about some things within the sport, and hell, maybe even you'll get a game preview tomorrow. Who knows? We'll have a lot coming that way there tomorrow. So make sure you tune in if you haven't already. We have a Boise State game on Thursday. Yes, we do, and I'll be talking about that Boise State game, I think, a little bit Thursday. And I will certainly be talking about it as it's going on, because if you don't follow me on social media, you can do so down below, actually right below me. Specifically on X. I'm on X all the time, talking about games and things going on. So you can follow me over there and converse as you wish. But with that said, we're going to end the poll. It's at a tie. Didn't get a tiebreaker. BJ, I presume you would only make that worse.
Well, I was to say, you know my vote, so I can't necessarily split it 3 ways. So,
all right. So either way, we will go ahead and get out of here for today. But I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Seriously, it's been a lot of fun. A lot of fun in the chat. Drew, thank you for being here. Everybody else who participated, thank you guys. And
see you Saturday.
Oh, see you, BJ, on Saturday. Enjoy your week. Have a good week. And
I will try.
you get started with high school football this weekend.
I do.
Or this week, Thursday. You get a Thursday game.
Action. Yes, I'm going to miss the Thursday action because I'll be high school centered on Thursday. But that allows me to watch some of the best that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday have to offer instead.
Yeah, your boys on Monday. We may have to have you on Tuesday to get a little bit of some thoughts after that one.
Yeah, that might be alcohol in hand, depending on how that one goes.
Hey, we don't really know. I mean, that's two teams there's a team that we think we know, and there's a team that we feel like we should know, but we really don't. Obviously, being North Carolina,
right?
It'll be a fun one. That's a game that I might put in a preview on itself. So, yeah, just appreciate again everybody for tuning in. Thank y'all, and we'll be back here. Well, you'll see me tomorrow, 1 p.m. with the Monday edition of Armchair Analysis. You have a good rest of your day and enjoy the rest of your weekend, and yeah, we'll see you guys then.